Today, I have an updated recommended mod list for the Mass Effect trilogy. This is going to be specifically for the Legendary Edition. I've done a video like this about 2.5 years ago. It was not long after I started playing the series. I played on Xbox my first couple playthroughs, and then I decided to try out modding. I've never really done it before, despite being a PC gamer for quite a long time, splitting time with consoles as well. So my last video is actually my most viewed video ever on this channel. I'll post links to it. There should be a picture or something here as well. And you can check out the links to that. I'm not going to recover most of those mods. So a lot of those mods, I think I talked about, 15 or so of them. I mentioned a couple of them again in this video because they've updated significantly. But if you want my full list, I would look at this one and the other video, and that will give you my full recommendations. I've actually also considered doing a list on Nexus mods, and if I do that, I'll put a link to it in the description or in the comments. So let's jump into the different mods. I will try to timestamp everything for you, and there will be links down in the description of the video to all of the mods, and we'll go from there. Okay, so the first one here is challenging my pronunciation. Eclectic emails. This is for the first Mass Effect for Legendary Edition 1. I am keeping these in order of the games. I'll try to make sure I mention that as well. This one's a super simple one. It basically is just giving you more lore and more kind of fringe things. So as far as I know, most of these emails and stuff are based on things that we know in the franchise, even though I'm sure there's some kind of artistic license being taken on some of these. It's as far as I know from when I was reading through these, there's nothing that big here. It's just I think it's cool, and it just feels good to see the things that you've done and the things you've accomplished during that game kind of noted in a way that you don't normally get. So you can check this one out at the link in the... This one is a favorite of mine. All of them, I believe they have one of these for every game, at least 1 and 3. But it's the Legendary Edition 1 Diversification Project. Now, this is one that was in my last video, but then it was in alpha. They have significantly updated it since then. You can see on here the last update was just in November. This is one of the, the one that's been the longest since they updated. But they, especially since that alpha version, they've done a lot. So if you go through here, what you see is, if you look at the armor of the NPC on the ground, the armor of this individual, they basically just, they make it all fit more into the entire trilogy. And so whether it's armors or weapons, just these bases like this, like in the base game, if I remember correctly, this entire base that you see on here only, and you can't even see it behind my camera, the entrance to this mine is behind my camera, but all of the rest of this, or at least most of it, doesn't even exist in the regular game. So it basically just kind of fleshes out a lot of things. Like this one here, when you explore the open worlds, there you can find like shipwrecks and stuff like that. These things are not typically in the game. You have a place where you mess with your armor there and your cabin, just all of this. It's just, it's for me, immersion wise, it helps a lot, because the base game kind of is pretty sparse. It's definitely a sign of its time, and this is a good example here. This is also, if you see the weapon they're holding, they have the weapons from 2 and 3 brought back into 1 as well, and I personally like that a lot, but not everyone does. So this one is what appears to be the probably final version of the Legendary Edition 1 Diversification Project. Okay, so this one is the Immersive Citizens LE2. So this is the first Mass Effect 2 mod that we have on here. This one, this is similar to the diversification mod. It's just not quite as extensive. So even if we look at the screenshots here, a lot of what they do in this one, so it compares the vanilla bar on Omega to the Immersive Citizens mod. Now, again, this isn't the biggest thing in the world. This is one of the small kind of immersion mods, basically, to show you know, that this bar doesn't just have 15 people in it, that, you know, it's packed full. This also does require that you have at least a decent PC to run this, and that's the story with all of these mods. So I do suggest that. But yeah, you can just see it's subtle, but it's noticeable, especially if you've played the series over and over and over again in the vanilla state. Then you'll notice when you come into these places, you'll see species that you don't normally see. A lot of these kind of mods do things like add like female Turians into various parts of the game, which I think in the vanilla version we literally only see in the Mass Effect 2 mod or the DLC. So, you know, again, fairly subtle, but another one I really like to be able to kind of immerse myself in the world a bit more, the Immersive Citizens LE2 mod. Okay, so this is another fairly subtle one, but one I really enjoy. It's for Mass Effect 2 Legendary Edition, the no headgear for Squadmates. It gives you a ton of choice. If we look through here, it's always annoyed me playing the vanilla version how they all have these like headgear on for, you know, most of the game, or for most of the armors you can pick for them. So with Miranda here, this armor typically has like a visor over her face. I just don't really get it. I think it looks kind of bad. With Garrus, it specifically lets you pick from like different kinds of headgear, or you can get rid of it entirely. So with her, same with Jack, Grunt, they were big eye cover heavy in Mass Effect 2. I don't really know why. It gets rid of Thane's sunglasses, gives Tali a different visor, though there's another mod we'll talk about with Tali that we'll get to. But yeah, I think it looks a lot better. I think it makes it easier to see, you know, these the characters emoting and talking and stuff like that. It's less distracting. So I do highly suggest that one. That is the no headgear for Squadmates mod. Here we have the Spectre Expansion Mod for Legendary Edition 2. There is also a version of this for Mass Effect 3 if this looks familiar. This is one that they made for this. This one isn't quite as in depth as I believe the other one. This one very much is mostly just for immersion and things like that. It is cool though, because what it does is it takes parts of the game that, you know, normally would feel kind of empty or pointless, and it flushes out a bunch of information, like this one here with this like Suskind station. It gives you some background on that. I believe this is a model that isn't normally in the game, and it's just a place when you're going to these places, you're getting more info than you would have normally gotten. You get the star maps become a little more useful, messages and stuff like that you get. It's to bring you more in. And I believe, and if I remember correctly from my own playthrough, it also references a bunch of stuff that will become more important in Mass Effect 3. And it's just those little bits of flair that I really appreciate. So you should check out the Spectre Expansion Mod for Legendary Edition 2. Here, I believe, is the first of the Mass Effect 3 mods that we have, and that's going to be the rest of them. It's quite a few if you look up at the top. The Cerberus Retrofits was really cool because what it does is it, in Mass Effect 3, if you play the vanilla version, you'll notice that for the most part, and there is some exception to this, but almost all the Cerberus forces you fight are just those basic soldiers with some of the shield guys and some of the kind of assassin archetypes in there. This one changes it up completely, using mostly assets that were in the game already, but using them more creatively. So these mechs that you get in the Omega DLC, they show up in more places than that, with Cerberus using them as their own forces, and all the way to like the Cerberus station at the end of the game. They show up there, which I thought was super cool and like made sense. Yeah, the ones with like the whips and stuff like that, there are some newer archetypes in there. And then this is kind of what just the basic soldiers look like. So instead of those big clunky ones that they have in the vanilla version, I just kind of think these look more like what you would expect, and they felt a bit more immersive. These monstrosities from the Omega DLC show up in more places after that DLC, and if you've played it, you know why, because, you know, this was a purposeful project by Cerberus to create some extremely challenging soldiers for the others to fight. And yeah, so all kinds of, you know, unique, you see these guys finally in their armor that you for whatever reason can also wear in Mass Effect 3. Even the type of armor that the shield guys are wearing is different. I think this is one of my favorite mods just for making the encounters of Cerberus a little more interesting, because honestly I think they're kind of boring in the vanilla version because they all just look exactly the same. There's you know, not much variety there. So the Cerberus Retrofits one, it's extremely good. In a similar vein, we have Geth Retrofits. Now this one, depending on the difficulty you're playing, I don't know if I fully recommend this because this one's really hard. There, this one makes the parts of the game where you interact with the Geth really challenging. At least for me, I actually ended up turning down the difficulty because they just became so difficult to fight. Same with I believe there's a Reaper retrofit as well, where it, you know, diversifies the kind of Reaper forces you fight, and it makes parts of the game extremely hard. This one does a similar thing, but again, it's kind of what I said about the Cerberus retrofits, where it essentially takes a bunch of the interactions you have with the Geth and it turns them into just things with more variety. It does take from some of the enemy archetypes from the previous games that we don't normally see in Mass Effect 3, and you see them here. It does not bring back the leapers, thank goodness, because those are the worst. But this is one I definitely recommend, the Geth Retrofits for Legendary Edition 3. So the Legendary Edition 3 Diversification Project, related obviously to the one that I talked about before for the first game. This is another one I believe I highlighted in the last video, but it's advanced so much. It's been updated as recently as just a couple months ago. They've done so much work to this one. I would argue that this is the type of mod that I wish they could have like included in the Legendary Edition, because it just adds, you know, it's not huge, but it adds so much stuff. Like the armor on almost everyone in the whole game, either it harkens back to armor from like Mass Effect 1, or it just gives them more appropriate armor depending on, you know, the species they are and or what conflict they're in or who they're associated with. There's just some really good stuff here. I really like, you know, it adds more NPCs to the common areas, like I talked about with the first one. You see appropriate armors on even like dead NPCs laying around and stuff like that. It adds, and this sounds dumb, but if you pay attention to it, or if you've played the vanilla version enough, it adds NPCs and parts of the maps, especially like the Citadel, where you would expect there to be people like on balconies and down below you on other parts of the world. It's you know, it's a small thing, but it's cool. Even in the dance club, you've got more people in there dancing and a more variety of people there, including, you know, like female Krogan. You see a lot of them, oddly enough, even though I thought that they were kind of rare, but we'll kind of get past that. But especially in the common areas at the Citadel, you'll see this be very impactful. And it just feels like there really are too many people jammed into the Citadel as everyone are leaving their homeworlds and stuff like that because of the Reaper invasion. This is a cool one too, the passing ships in the dock. You see, you know, before I think there were like Alliance freight liners and frigates and stuff like that. Well, now like here you've got, you know, Quarian ships, and I believe there's like Asari ships and Turian ships and all that. It's a small thing, but it's cool when you notice it. And then yeah, like I said before, just you know, just more variety. There are some in the missions, like this one here on the Palaven mission at the beginning, where you don't just have a few bog standard soldiers. You've got, you know, different armors, you've got different looks of each of the Turians. I do enjoy that quite a bit. That's another one where there's a bunch of female Turians. You can even see one here. The commander or the officer here is one of the female Turians. It looks cool. I think that this is one of the best ones, at least for immersion, if you ever want. And I guess if you want to go back to Mass Effect 1 with the boobas hanging out, you get that in the bottom left there. But yeah, so I definitely highly suggest this one. This is the Legendary Edition 3 Diversification Project. So this is one that comes with like spoiler warnings. I won't go all the way into it because this mod, it's called a Spectre's Gift. And on the surface, it appears to just be a nod to Andromeda, a vague attempt to connect Andromeda to Mass Effect, the trilogy. if you interact with this mod more, there's a lot more to it. I'm not going to pretend like it's groundbreaking, and it's even done fairly amateurly, but the ambition of this mod, I think, is the most impressive thing, and I genuinely believe it was cool. I had like big smiles when I was interacting with this. So the main thing that happens here is you get one of the Andromeda ships. I believe this is the Hyperion, in your in your ship, in your cabin in Mass Effect 3, and then there's more to it. So without getting spoilery about it, I just suggest that you do this mod and you interact with this ship, and then you go from there. And if you need help, you can go on here to the post, and I believe there's people in there that give some help if people are struggling with how to interact with this. But I highly suggest it. N7, A Spectre's Gift, a nice little nod and a nice attempt to connect Andromeda to the trilogy. This is one I know I talked about in the last video. For me, there's multiple mods that turn Tali, where you can see her face through the visor. Either it's completely clear, or there's even mods that that put some of the kind of concept or fan made concepts of what Tali could have looked like if she was more alien looking, looked more like a cat or lizard or whatever things people have done. This mod is my favorite one. It's Subtle Faces for Quarians and Tali. There's one for all three games, for 1, 2, and 3. And what I like about it a lot is that it gives Tali's face the more, lore or canon look that we see in the Legendary Edition 3, where you see her picture that she gives you if you're romancing her in that game. But in the first three, it does it in all three games. And what's really cool is it also does it with the other Quarians in the game. So especially in Mass Effect 2 and 3, when you're interacting with the Admiralty board and stuff like that, like Ron and the other ones, they give them in the notable Quarians have unique looking faces to a point. I really like the way this looks. They've updated this one, not for a little while, since 2022, but it's one of those things where I don't know what else they would do with it. But if you look here, it's still subtle, and in certain lighting, you still can't see their faces. You still just see their glowing eyes. It does give you a choice for what cabin photo to use. It actually uses screenshots of what the modded face in this mod looks like without the visor on. I think that's a cool nod. I always just use the one from the main game anyways. But like here, you see Zen there. There's Han Garl. It's just, I think it's cool. I think it makes them feel more real. Now, some people may prefer the vanilla look because they kind of like the idea that you just don't really know what they look like besides the picture that you see of Tali. But for me, especially because it's not super in your face and because it's sticking to canon, I like it. I think it's really cool. And especially if you are someone who romances Tali in your playthroughs, it makes some of those moments a lot better, to the point where I want to make a little clip of my last playthrough at the end of the game, the moment when you're running to try to get up on the Citadel at the very end. You're trying to get to the beam, and you have your whole scene where Tali gets hurt, whoever else you have with you, they help you carry him back to the ship, and the whole goodbye moment. That moment, and even before that, when you're in the forward operating base and you have your moment with Tali, the angles that they use in that just look really, really good with this mod. And to me, I obviously have a soft spot for our Quarian here. So, I highly suggest this mod, the Subtle Faces for Quarians and Tali, for all three games, but especially 3. The Expanded Galaxy mod for the Legendary Edition. This is for Mass Effect 3. Not the craziest recommendation. I didn't put it in my last video. I don't think I used it because I didn't like some of the things it did. They've updated it quite a bit. They've updated it as recently as like a week and a half ago from the time I'm making this video, towards the end of August 2025. So they've kept up with this, and it's really cool. There's a bunch of things. Like, I can't go over everything that's in this, but this, I don't think it significantly expands the game, but it makes it way more immersive and way more like interactable. One example here, at some point you can purchase an upgrade for your ship where it puts a target range down in the bay at the bottom. You can select what vehicles you want down in the cargo bay. You can pick, anything you want. You can do the old, some of the old ones, some of the fighters, even enemy crafts for some reason. It gives you cabin photos for any of the romances you're doing. It lets you invite. So in Mass Effect 2, if you have a romance there at the end of the game, you can invite that partner up to your room, and there's a few interactions you can have with them. It basically brings that forward to 3 if that's something you would want. It gives you, I believe, the war terminal, if you see right there in the middle, where you can check war assets from this spot, and not have to go all the way into the war room, which is really, really nice. It lets you walk straight through that stupid scanner, if you don't have a mod just for that. It gives you other outfits for various characters, including Edie. Garrus, it gives him more outfits like you see there. Different weapons become available that you can purchase. Again, different outfits for them. As you collect weapons, you can start to see them show up down in the cargo bay. This one was really cool. There's some more missions like this where you can make decisions here on who you help or if you try to get out. I maybe didn't fully appreciate this, but like this one is after the Thessia mission. You can go back there and decide, if you want to try to evacuate civilians or important scientists and things like that. That is a very cool one. And then you have some of the other controls there. One thing I believe, and if you watch my last playthrough over on my VODs channel, I believe it was this mod that adds a different armor for your shoulders that includes a backpack. The backpack is from the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and it's this green backpack that has this antenna on it. And I found it, I loved it. I was using it on my Shepard the entire playthrough. I even changed his outfit to match the coloring on it. And I don't know, like it just made Shepard feel like more like a soldier, not just like a Superman with a Zen 7 armor. I don't know. I liked it. That's up to you. There's more stuff in this mod than I could ever do in a video like this, but I absolutely recommend the Expanded Galaxy mod for Legendary Edition for Mass Effect 3, for sure. This is one I know I recommended last time. It's called Dreams Remade. It's for Mass Effect 3, Legendary Edition. It's been about 1.5 years since they updated it, but from the last time I did this, they had updated it quite a bit. This is one where I wish this was in the Legendary Edition. I wish they would have taken a few mods and put it into that remaster they did, and this one being the main one, because it takes those dream sequences from Mass Effect 3, which are pretty universally hated, and I think that's fair, and it makes them amazing, like genuinely some of the best parts of the game, where it takes in all the choices you've made through the series, and it makes each of these moments way more impactful, because it's a direct response to what you've done or didn't do. It's extremely good. I recommend this one 1000%. It essentially takes those stupid running sequences and makes all of them feel like emotional. That one of the really cool things is, I believe if you have the right mod in here, there's a Reaper that shows up in it, and it's Harbinger from the first game. I don't know how to explain it without spoiling the best parts of it. But if you're playing modded Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I believe that Dreams Remade is a 100% essential mod to have. All right, so we have 2 mods here that have to do with just the final mission of the game, Priority Earth. So this one is Priority Earth Overhaul mod. So what this does is a few things. And there's another mod I'm going to talk about next that kind of puts it together. But here, it's you basically it improves your interaction with that final mission, simply because it kind of doesn't feel like you have that much to do with it. And so all the choices you've made throughout the game, especially in 3, it does a good job of representing those. Here you have like the rollout of Hammer, the ground forces, and you see everyone represented that you've brought into this fight. You have Garrus's platoon there. You have like legit, you can see from the example here, they just fleshed out that mission more in the visual department, because it's pretty bland. You can tell that back when they released Legendary, or the original Mass Effect 3, they probably just had to kind of rush the end of this game, because we even know there were supposed to be like multiple missions on Earth, and it just turned into this one, kind of gauntlet that you run through. Here, like the little Huss thing here, it shows you, how many you have left to kill. Even in the bottom right, you get updates throughout the mission of how well your forces are doing, and I believe it's based on how many war assets you have and things like that. And when you get to the forward operating base, this is one of the cool things where it has, like, here it has Kirhi and the STG forces if you recruited them, if you made the right choices previously in the game. You've got Asari, you've got Geth, depending on the choices you've made throughout the game. You've got like an actual conversation with Victus instead of just the third person interaction you can have with them. These temporary allies are super cool. I didn't know this until I was playing through the final mission. And basically by the end of the mission, you can have like, it's like 5 or 6 people in your squad at the very end when you're firing off those missiles at the Reaper. It's awesome. I was very impressed by that. I got Grunt. And then, yeah, you can actually have Failure. Okay, I didn't even know that you could get Zaid. He maybe didn't make it in my playthrough. But yeah, so this is the Priority Earth Overhaul mod. It really helps make that final mission feel as big as it should, and I definitely recommend it. And an older mod, I think that's been around a bit longer, the Take Earth Back, which these two mods, the Priority Earth Overhaul and Take Earth Back, are compatible, so they kind of stack onto each other. And this is another one, just like the others, that's been updated pretty recently. This one's been updated this year. This is another one that just makes that final mission more immersive and more responsive to the decisions you've made. It just kind of improves the visuals, is a big one here. You see a lot more of the forces, especially in that final push, that you should have seen. Like here, you have an L Corps and their battle armor running into that final part of the mission. Yeah, you can have Rachni depending on choices you made, of course. And then this is another one that I believe this also adds a bunch of people at the forward operating base that you wouldn't have normally seen. I remember seeing this. I don't fully understand what's being referenced here. I assume that maybe we got some special forces from Cerberus to come over and help us fight the Reapers. But I remember being surprised when I saw them. If you make the right choices here, you've got some of the collectors and stuff that would be controlled by someone you meet in a DLC. I guess I can say that. That's the sister ship of the Normandy shows up, which is kind of a cool nod. And then of course you get, I believe it's a better representation of, I believe it's Sovereign there at the end. So yeah, this one, again, it's just for that one mission. Maybe you don't think it's worth it for an hour of gameplay. For me, it definitely was worth it because I'll take anything that makes that final mission feel a bit more connected to the things I've done. So I highly suggest Take Back Earth mod for Mass Effect 3 Legendary Edition. And then finally, a really old mod. This is one that has not been updated recently. This one was last updated in 2021. This would have been, I guess, within a week or two of the Legendary Edition even coming out. But it's awesome. It's the Anderson's Final Conversation Restored. So depending on choices you make, of course, there can be a moment where Shepard and Anderson are sitting after they, beat the final boss, I guess is how I would say it. They're having a conversation, and it's fairly short, and then Anderson passes, and the rest of the game plays out. In this one, it basically goes into this conversation that he has with Shepard of like, did you ever want kids? Like, it's just a longer conversation, and it's really cool. And the way it ends is just, man, it had me going. So this is one that I think is basically essential, especially if you want to have that final big interaction with Anderson. And it's called the Anderson's Final Conversation Restored. So like I said before, you do need to check out my other video, or at least look at the list of mods I had in that video, which I'll link all over the place. In combination with this, I really believe between all of these mods, and I didn't even show all the ones I use. Some of them I don't recommend. That's why they're not here. I think that the vanilla version of the game still has its worth. I plan on my next playthrough being on console, being on vanilla, because it has its own, like, I don't know, it's something cute about it or whatever. But I really believe if you have a decent PC and you want to have this like fully fleshed out experience, And I stay away from any of the heavily changing mods. Like there's a mod that makes it so everyone lives at the end and it's just destroy and Edie doesn't die and all this stuff. I think that's a little too much, but that's just me. So for you, find those mod recommendations and go for it. So for me, it's normally about quality of life and just expanding existing lore and things like that, or just making the game feel more immersive and realistic and things like that. Realistic with quotes, right? I think if you take all the mods from my last video, from this one, and put them together, you end up having a really, really great experience with the whole Legendary Edition. I'm newer to the franchise with the Legendary Edition, and I don't want to say how many playthroughs I'm pretty sure I'm at right now, but it's probably more than I should. And even after all those playthroughs, especially with these mods, it just makes the experience new to me again. And that's really, really cool. So I'm currently actually doing an Andromeda playthrough with some very light mods. Once I finish that, I'll actually probably do a video for that as well to give some of my recommendations of those. Please follow, please subscribe to the channel. If you want more Mass Effect stuff, I'm covering the next Mass Effect, every bit and piece that we get about it, especially as we come closer to N7 Day in 2025 here. I'll be covering anything and everything that comes out. If you just like gaming news and speculation in general, I've got podcasts, I've got news videos, I've got gameplay, I've got everything. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button on this one so more people can have these recommendations. And if you really want to support the things I do and get videos like this one just a hair early, consider becoming a YouTube member. If you want to see other ways to support, check out the links in the description. You can also find the other stuff I do down there, the other content, my podcasts and streams and stuff like that. That's all I have for this one. So until next time.